So how about we start off with an email regarding last week's show on homosexuality. It's a good one from Foodie from Down Under. He's a seeker of truth. And he writes, "Hi Shawn, Foodie here from Brisbane, Australia. Enjoying the City of Refuge episode today. You were saying you welcome and invite any and everyone," meaning the church. "If they wanted to be baptized, you'd baptize them. Whether it's fully submerged or sprinkled, you do it. Was wondering, would you marry a gay couple that love Jesus? Please know I don't mean any harm in this question. I'm not going to go post it up somewhere on the internet. LOL, just curious. Blessings, Foodie." Now, this is a really, really good question. Last week, I said that if a religious or act or ritual or practice had merit or basis in Scripture, we would do it any way that it's interpreted. And I use baptism as an example. If someone wants to be sprinkled, we'll sprinkle. Poured, poured. None, none. Immersion, immersion. And as Foodie pointed out. So what about marriage? And this is such an important message in our day and age that we have a play that we've been trying to get to the stage here at campus. And in the play, we have a homosexual couple who come to the pastor with questions. Now, in the play, the couple is male, a guy named Marcus and a guy named William. But tonight, we're going to read through this section as if it were the play. It's just going to be a reading, though. We're not going to really act it out unless we look at each other occasionally. But we have two females playing the roles. So thank you, Diana, and thank you, Cassidy, for stepping up and reading with me. As a quick backstory to the play, Wilma, who will be played by Diana, Wilma has been attending the church of the pastor for years, and she is an openly gay woman. She's a lesbian. And her partner, played by Cassidy McCraney, is not a believer. Her name is Molly. And Molly has finally been persuaded by Wilma to come in and talk with me, the pastor. I'll play the pastor and read the pastor's part. So again, Molly is not a believer, played by Cassidy. And Derek, can we do the three shot? Or Delaney? So this is Diana. Diana is playing Wilma. Cassidy is playing Molly. Wilma is the one who has been attending church as a believer 7 years, and she finally got her girlfriend, Molly, to come in and meet me. So you ready? We're gonna take about 8 pages. Here we go. So it's good to finally meet Molly face to face. What's it been, Wilma? 6 years that you've been attending?
Hard to believe. So yes, this is Molly, and we wanted to ask some questions, if that's okay, Pastor.
Of course, anything.
Go ahead.
Okay, here's the deal. When I hear you teach and try to take what you say and share it with Molly, something is always
lost in translation.
Bill Murray.
So after last week's message, I told Molly that if she had questions, she should come and ask them herself. So here we are.
All right, ready, steady, go. Can a homosexual go to heaven?
Of course.
Then why do so many people say otherwise?
I don't know exactly. They probably misunderstand why people go to heaven and why they don't.
And why don't people go to heaven? Sin, right? Is homosexuality a sin?
Yes, very much so.
So sinners can go to heaven?
Only sinners go to heaven, Molly.
Why is this so confusing to me? I like the Catholics better.
Probably because I'm just answering your questions and not giving you any explanation.
So would you explain?
People enter heaven because they have faith in the Son of God, who sent his Son to save us. People don't go to heaven when they refuse to believe and receive God's Son. Homosexuality, the presence or lack thereof, has nothing to do with it.
Told you.
So homosexuals who have faith in Jesus can go to heaven, and homosexuals who don't won't.
Just like everybody else.
But you say homosexuality is a sin.
Just like my lust for women is a sin, and Mrs. Tremblay's impatience with difficult people is sinful, and my wife's pride is sinful. Sin is sin, no matter what it is. We are steeped in it. And because a person believes in Jesus does not mean they are without it. By the way, your sins, Molly, are not limited to homosexuality. I'm sure you are also guilty of lying and gossiping and maybe even being a regular old jerk to people sometimes.
On the rare occasion.
The better question is, have you received God's solution to the sins that abide in your flesh?
That would be Jesus.
Thank you for that.
Right. Have you placed your faith in Jesus as the one who came and paid for your sin and mine?
Wilma seems convinced of him as the way for the gay.
And I agree with Wilma, and I would add that he's the way for all people.
But don't most churches frown on sin? You seem to be saying sin is acceptable.
All I'm saying is we all have it to some extent or another.
You sin, Pastor?
We all sin, Molly. That's the point. He came and saved the world in its sin. And he saves those who believe on him from their sin as well.
By faith?
That's right. By faith, who receive him by faith.
In Jesus.
And I thank you yet again.
So this is why you accept me, Pastor, as a congregant here, though I am still guilty of the sin of homosexuality.
Well, I hope you'll accept me as your pastor, even though I am still guilty of sin in my life too, Wilma. Again, he paid for all sin, so sin is not the issue. The issue is faith. You, Wilma, have received Jesus by faith, and all people are justified before God by faith. So this makes you my sister.
So why do people always tell me I have to repent?
Repenting, Molly, means to change your mind.
About?
Well, about how you see yourself in relation to who God is, and how you see him, how you see your need for him.
And how should I see him?
As vitally necessary and important, and the embodiment of love.
Funny, I've always seen myself as the embodiment of love.
Well, you might start on that one there, Molly.
Told you so.
But why would I? Why should I start there?
Well, let me ask you something. Molly, do you have any nieces or nephews?
11, my sisters are factories.
Well, pick one of them.
Okay, Bottles, he's 7, he's adorable.
Okay, let's say that you decide to treat Bottles to a day of fun. And you take the day off from work, and you go to a lot of time and trouble and expense to make sure Bottles is having a good time. You take him to an amusement park and on a hike and McDonald's and ice cream, and you get him an Xbox to boot.
I'm with you.
All right, and all day long, Bottles is a jerk to you. He ignores you, and if he's not ignoring you, he's ridiculing you, he's mocking you, he even denies that you're important. He treats you indifferently. At the end of the day, he doesn't even say thank you.
Little brat.
Now, you love Bottles still, but wouldn't you want, for his own good, for him to change his mind and attitude about how he views himself in relation to you?
To be respectful, thankful, grateful, polite.
Right, because that would make Bottles a better human being, wouldn't it? To be that way. It's not that you need to have him be that way, but it's that in being that way, he would be a better person.
I see.
So it's pretty easy to see the concept when we talk about other people we love, our nieces and nephews. Now imagine that we're talking about the actual creator of all things, heaven and earth, and all that they contain, including us. He governs, he controls, he's the origin of all life. How do you think he would want us to be toward him?
I hear you.
And he wants this because it will make you, who he loves, a nicer, kinder, better, more loving child.
Okay, too heavy, too heavy. Next question, will you marry us?
You mean, will I officiate over a religious wedding ceremony for you?
No, I mean, will you marry us?
I can't marry you.
Told you, it's because we're gay, right?
No, it's because it's an impossibility.
I beg to differ.
Let me try and explain. I'm really sorry for these mini sermons, but put it this way. When God created man, Adam, he formed him from the dust of the ground, and then he formed woman from his side. From the very get-go, they were one, from the very same person. God did not marry them, nor did he perform a religious wedding ceremony for them. There was no need. They were one flesh, came from one flesh from the beginning. Nothing could ever change this fact. Are you with me?
Preach it, brother.
Well, Adam could have moved to Egypt and Eve to Cincinnati, but they would forever be one flesh because they came from the same flesh.
Okay.
Looking back on this event then, Moses wrote that for this reason a man leaves his father and mother and cleaves unto his wife, and that the two become one flesh. Again, it is the two becoming one flesh that best describes a marriage having taken place. In fact, both you and Wilma are the product of people marrying. When two people, one male, one female, became one flesh, like Adam and Eve. It didn't matter if your parents had a ceremony or not, right? They were one flesh, and that is the biblical definition of marriage. Now think about it. Nowhere in the Bible, when men took a wife, do we read about a pastor coming out and performing a ceremony to make them one. We see celebrations, but actual marriage was always the consummation of the two becoming one, like Adam and Eve. See the difference between marriage and a wedding ceremony? All that was needed for a marriage to take place in God's eyes was for, Wilma?
For the two to become one.
And no matter how hard you two might try with each other, no matter how inventive you get, it's impossible for two females or two males to become one physically. It's impossible. Spiritually, emotionally, you can become one, sure. But it's an impossibility for you to become one physically. It's therefore biologically impossible for the two of you to ever be married from a biblical perspective. This is why I can't possibly marry you.
But we can have a wedding ceremony.
Certainly. There are thousands of ceremonies of every lifestyle to participate in throughout the world. But no ceremony in the world will unite you in marriage in the way God defines and sees it. This is why I try and stay true to the biblical definitions of marriage.
Understood. Will you then perform our wedding ceremony?
Oh, thank you so very much for the invitation, but no.
You see, it's because we're gay, isn't it?
No, because there's no reason for me as a pastor to perform an earthly ritual when a justice of the peace or a good friend can do the same thing for you.
But you'll perform them for hetero couples.
Not anymore.
Why?
Because it's a meaningless ritual for me to play any part of. I have no authority or priesthood. I have no power. My standing over a couple and having them repeat things I ask them to say has no other purpose than window dressing to appease cultural norms.
But it does make it legitimate in the eyes of the law.
Which grants associated tax benefits.
Which again can be obtained before a county recorder or a justice of the peace. My job is not to perform rituals. I'm not a priest. I'm nothing but a teacher. It's to teach people about the solution to sin and to help them in their faith and to grow in love.
Are you understanding this, Molly?
I'm trying.
So there is our response to Foodie's question from Brisbane, Australia. Thank you very much, actresses or actors. Diana? Thank you, love.
Thank you.
Kisses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cassidy, smooching kisses. Thank you. All right.
There we go.
I hope some understanding has occurred through that little drama.